Last week towards the end of the episode, I was talking about how I felt like I moved through this kind of journey of going from hope to trust and faith to knowing. So I want to talk about this kind of this path, this trajectory, because as we're going through just all of, as I've been talking about these massive shifts, lots of tumult, but also a lot of really wonderful things coming in, beautiful things coming in. It is a time of death and rebirth, of revelation, of remembering, of awakening, of ascension, of all, of crumbling. It's the whole gamut, right? It really is every end of the spectrum and all the shades of gray in between. And it's huge. It's really big, and it can be very intense and overwhelming and exciting. But I think what I keep on coming back to in this process, because there is so much happening, is there's this real importance of returning home to ourselves, coming inwards, coming into being, dropping into silence so that we can learn to listen again and to reactivate our innate abilities. But this movement, I'm going to call it, from hope on one end of the spectrum to knowing on the other, I feel is such an embodied and empowering place to be. It's an act of empowerment because it's part of this remembering who we are. It's remembering our power. It's our remembering who we truly are and our innate gifts and abilities. And I think when the world gets louder and the chaos gets more frantic, all the more need to come back into that center point of stillness and true knowing. So I want to talk about the energy of hope, the energy of trust and faith, and then the energy of knowing and what the embodiment of these things are, and why that path is actually quite important and where it will lead us to. So I'm going to attempt to do all of that today. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. It's kind of crazy how time goes by, right? I remember in 2020, there were so many quote unquote predictions of where we'd be by 2025. And we're really just around the corner, which is crazy. But I want to talk a little bit actually about predictions, because I was recognizing this the other day around how you can listen to various things that actually can be wonderful. There's a lot of people that I listen to that I really respect and appreciate their outlook on life and the wisdom and knowledge they have, the intuition they have, the expertise that they have. And yeah, I was catching myself, there's a lot of people that will do like the forecast of the month ahead, whether it's astrological or energetic and in some ways I like it and I appreciate it. And I find that actually it's more potent when I don't watch it at the beginning of the month, but I watch it about maybe like halfway through and I'm like, oh yeah, that really resonates. But I was also recognizing that it's really easy to get pulled into future moments. Where are we going? What is it going to be like? What's coming up? And we do have this kind of propensity to want to know what's going to happen next, because we want to know, because we don't like when we don't know. When we don't know, we feel like we're not in control. When we do know, we feel like we have an element of control. And the thing is that life is happening in this now moment. And so I was catching for myself this feeling of like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting to listen to, but actually all we have is right here. That's all we have, and the future is still, it's completely, well, I can't say it's completely unpredictable, but it's very unpredictable. Maybe some things are predictable, right? There's cause and effect, there's patterns, there's various aspects to it. Nothing is black and white. But there's this, I just come back to this simplicity. I really like to make things very simple. It's just the simplicity of all we have is now. And, anything that might come up in the future, yeah, it may not, but that's still a future point, and it's keeping us from actually just being in the present moment. And the present moment is where the fullness and richness of existence lies, right? There is no other moment. That the future will just be another now moment. So, but also if I look back at, if I go back to 2020, when it was all going down, and, for many, the veil was being pulled back and things were being seen, and not for everyone, some it's been a process. Some maybe they're like, what the hell are you talking about, Corinne? It's okay. But all throughout it, I've really been observing, because I like to observe kind of outside in. I always did that as a child and as a teenager. I thought I was so curious to kind of observe things from the periphery and just watch things play out. What does it look like? What are the interactions like? What's going on underneath the surface? But it's been really interesting to observe from an outside in view of the kind of energetics of the collective. And I can't say the whole collective, because there are many different, sectors of it, one could say. But bringing in the theme of hope, from hope to trust and faith to knowing, I've really seen and experienced it myself. I can only begin with my own experience, but I feel like I've also really witnessed it. I've observed it. So in the beginning, when there is despair, the first thing that we reach to is hope, right? And you could say on one hand, like, that's a lovely thing. It's wonderful to be hopeful. That feels like a positive thing. Like, I'm going to be hopeful in this situation and hope for the best outcome, right? Hope for things to change, hope for there to be an awakening, hope for there to be love and light and all of these wonderful things coming in. But the energetics of it are still coming in from where I'm standing, my view, this is my opinion, still coming from a place of I am waiting, we are waiting, one is waiting for something outside of them to come in and make it better. I hope that this person will show up and save us. I hope that God will come in and make everything better. I hope that the universe will come in and make things right. Right? It's still in relationship to something that is outside of you, that you do not have power over, and that you do not have the power yourself to create, and waiting and hoping and wishing. Right? I wish upon a star. I hope that this may happen. And so you could say that, like, the intention is beautiful because it's a lovely hope, but I feel like it's still coming from a disempowered place, because it is a waiting. A hoping is often a waiting, right? It's waiting for something to come in, for something to happen. And then it kind of leaves the hoper in a position of, what's the word that I'm looking for? The word is escaping me, but it's kind of passive. It's passive. Right? And to a certain degree, I come back to this kind of conundrum of like, well, how engaged are we with life that we are the creator of it and our reality, and how much of it is really trusting the unfoldment of like, we're just the vehicle and the vessel, and our soul is guiding us, source is guiding us. There's different angles on that as well. And maybe it's not completely black and white. Maybe it's a dance between the two. But hope has this feeling of the really very close to the other side of the coin, which is hopelessness. And what I observed is that there was hope, but when the timing was off, or when the thing that they were hoping for didn't happen, there was disappointment, and disappointment then led to hopelessness, right? It went into hopelessness. So hope and hopelessness are two sides of the same coin, and I feel like the coin can be tossed and it can land on either one pretty easily, right? There's a vulnerability in it. There's I don't want to say volatility to it, but there's just it's not steady. It's not sturdy, right? It's very affected and influenced by what happens on the external. So therefore, that's kind of making my point that hope is still something that is outside of us that we cannot really control, even if it's really well-intentioned and it comes from a place of positivity and optimism. So then what I found myself moving into is like, no, don't hope. Don't use that word hope. What if I really trusted? What if I really trusted that whatever the trajectory that we're on as a collective, the trajectory that I'm on individual, as an individual, like my own personal soul journey and path, human path, what if I really profoundly trusted it? And that's, I think, a beautiful escalation. Like, I think, or elevation. It's a beautiful kind of evolution as taking another step up. I don't want to make it sound hierarchical, but you know what I mean. There's an unfolding of that. And it does drop us into a place of, oh, okay, what if I just trusted? I'm not in control, right? I'm not in control. I don't have to make it happen. I don't have to worry about what might happen or what might not happen and get into the fear. Because the thing is, hope, even if it's positive, it can feed into the fear. That's where the hopelessness comes in. Oh my God, the world is getting worse. It's actually not getting worse. It's just revealing what has always been there. So the more light comes in, the more that you see the shadow, right? It just shows what has been there. So this whole idea that people think the world is getting worse and worse and worse. No, we're just actually seeing what's been underneath the surface for thousands of years. And the light is finally coming in to shed light on it, right? To show us. And then once we see things, we can change things. We can let go of things. So trust gives us it settles us in just a little bit more into our body and being. There's that we're moving now more in the direction of come back home to yourself, come back into your being, right? If hope is kind of the arms outstretched in front of you going, I hope, please come save me, come make it better. It's like the little toddler reaching out for mommy, please come and make me feel better, which, is fine. That's, but we're not children, right? We're not children. And unfortunately, our society has kept us in this kind of crib, a kind of imprisoned crib to be like, you're not powerful. You're not a spiritual adult. You're a child. We're treated like we're children. We're treated like we're infants, but we're not taken care of. We're kind of abused. We're not being treated like in a lovely, loving, caring, nurturing way. What you would want a parent to do and treat you. It's a little bit more convoluted than that. But metaphorically speaking, it's like we're being kept in this kind of infantile or juvenile state of being. And actually, I was listening to this woman on this podcast that was talking about how we're so afraid of our power because we have been ruled by people that have gone into the greed of power and are really in the shadow side of power. And so the powerful have made us feel powerless and have made us afraid of power because when we see power, we go, well, but that's a really negative example of power. Right? Like power equals greed, it equals controlling others, it equals deception and lies and manipulation and abuse. And, all you need to do is look into certain industries or look into corporations or look into organizations and the corruption of power, but that's that current definition of power, whereas actually our true power is just our innate being, right? When we are in our power is when we are in our truth. And that's the thing, is that convoluted power is not truth. It's not authentic, right? It's an act, and it's fed from fear. It's fed from the not of the light, right? And so it breeds fear, it breeds control. And so then our brain works by connotation. So we have this connotation that like power is bad, and the powerful have suppressed us into feeling powerless. And so then we toggle, we struggle with this feeling of like, well, what is my inner power? And on one hand, it's like, well, do you want to be powerful? But if we come back to the essence of these words and of these embodiments, for me, we are in our power when we are in who we truly authentically are. And that is a very honest, raw, vulnerable, real, authentic, unique, clear, pure expression of who you are as a soul and as a spirit, right? Even beyond the personality. Our personality is married with that, you could say, in partnership with that. But it's really coming back to the essence of who we are. And I repeat this again and again because it's so important to know that we are not the painting, we are the canvas behind the painting. The canvas is the soul, the painting is the human experience. All the colors and textures is the human experience, but you are not the painting. Your soul is residing behind the painting as the canvas that is holding all of this up for you to have the amazing experience of being human. But that you are not all the color. The color can change. You can paint on top of paint, right? And you can completely change the painting. The canvas is always there, right? So this, as we come back home into ourselves, it's all a returning home. It's all a remembering. And this is like, I've just put out my new website. I'm still working on it, but it's all about this. It's all about the return of home. It's the homecoming. It's the remembrance. You don't need to go out and find who you are. You just need to remember who you truly are. And maybe sometimes there's the peeling back of in order to reveal who you've always been. And so if hope is this outward movement that's moving further away from us because we've believed, oh, I'm not powerful. I can't create the change. I can't change what's going on in the world. We have to wait for some savior, be it God or be it a political figure, which is a kind of a joke, but that's just my opinion. Or be it another person, or be it angels or guides or aliens or God, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because that is still coming from, I can't do anything. I'm powerless. So trust is one of the first steps to be like, I'm going to come closer back into my body. I'm going to come closer to connecting to source, or whatever you want to call it for yourself. I'm coming back closer to who I truly am, my oversoul, my spirit. And also come close to who I am as a person, because that's really important, like to know, who am I? I have an I am, and it's important to know the I am of my essence, and it's also important to know the I am of my personality, so I'm not at the mercy of my personality, right? It's not unconscious. I've made it conscious so that I can know, I can also describe who am I as Corinne, and then who am I as a soul. And hopefully they have similar qualities, because really they should be in partnership. So we're coming back into the embodiment. We're coming back into our body. We're coming back more into connection with who we are as a human, as a soul, and to source itself. And again, nature, I talked about this at the end of last episode too. Nature, even if you don't want to believe in, source, God, creator, universe, if all of that is just, you're like, I'm an atheist. Nature is an amazing temple, right? There's so much wisdom there. So even if it's just connect to nature, feel the wisdom and the energy of a tree, the sand on the beach, the water of a river, the sound of birdsong. All of these things will remind us of who we truly are, because we are that. We are nature. We're all of the same cut of fabric, right? So trust is taking it into a deeper state of like, okay, I'm coming back into a closer truth of existence and who I am. The amnesia starts to rub off a little bit because you're coming back into the remembering of, oh, this is what it feels like when I'm connected to that which is real. Not the story, not the narrative, which can change year to year, decade by decade, month to month. My goodness, opinions change all the time, right? Fads change all the time. But we're coming back into what is real. And I say unchanging because you see the cycles of nature, but also it's always evolving and expanding, because that is the very nature of consciousness and the universe and existence, right? So the next step after we have trust. But trust too, of course, can waver. Well, I trust it when it's going well. I don't trust it when it's not going well. It's really easy to trust when you're having a good time of it and things are flowing and you're like, yeah, I trust this. This is great. And then, maybe you have that experience. I certainly had that experience that it's like, things are going really well and you're on this flow and you're like, yes, I trust it. You feel synchronicity come in more. You feel flow coming in more, because that's what happens when we're not coming from fear and we're not trying to control and we're not trying to grip, make things happen and basically squeezing the life out and the air out of manifestation and creation and possibility and opportunity, and energy, just energy. We're not putting a sack on it, and taking the breath out of it. We're allowing it. Like flow is when we allow it to breathe and we allow it to happen and we allow it to just be. But then maybe something comes in and it comes out of left field and it knocks you for six and you're like, what the hell? What is this? Why? Why is like always like, I'm great. And boom, there's the metaphoric car crash, or there's the wall or whatever it is. And it might be a small thing. It might be a big thing. And so then you really lose trust. You're like, well, screw that. How can I trust this if this, like, why is this still happening? And we can get into a story and then that pulls us back into the old kind of I'm powerless and the victimization and why don't you help me? Why is this going on? Like, F you, God, F you, universe, whatever it is, right? And so then again, we're stepping outside of ourselves. We're going into that kind of archetypal child again of being powerless, not being able to do something. Something is being done to me. Why is it happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? The victim comes in, the helplessness comes in, the juvenile part of us starts to emerge, right? This is where I found, this is where faith enters. It's the next step in the trajectory. Because faith comes in and goes, no matter what is being thrown my way, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, can I have absolute faith? Like, I'm not going to question it. Trust, you can question it. Do I trust you? Do I not trust you? Ooh, you're doing something that's trustworthy. Ooh, I'm not quite sure that's trustworthy, right? That it can be a little bit wobbly. It can be a little bit shaky. Well, I trust you if this happens. It's condition. There can be an element of conditionality. Oh, but if you do that, nope, I've lost my trust for you. Faith is going, no matter what presents itself, I believe, I have faith that it's going to be okay, that it's happening for me instead of to me. And that, faith still includes trust. Like the faith goes, I really profoundly trust that there's a reason for this. And I need to just continue to, in the most empowered way, surrender, soften, let go, have faith that I'm being guided, have faith that there's a higher reason for all of this, have faith that I know which direction to go in, have faith that I can take these steps. And that I trust myself in the process. So it's a simultaneous belief in oneself and a belief in the higher. It's the synergy of these things coming together. Like, okay, it's not just trust; it's a profound trust that leads us into a deepening sense. I have faith. I have faith in myself, and I have faith of the larger tapestry that I'm a part of, that I'm woven into. So faith is another settling in. We settle a little bit more cushy and grounded into our body and being, okay, I can be here. I can be in faith. I don't have to be pulled out and driven by and whipped around fear. Right? So if we get into like, weight, if I were to look at these things of, how like gold is really heavy. I don't know how, actually, maybe copper is heavy too, but I'm thinking about just alchemy and the different metals. But it's almost like when I see hope, it's kind of like a feather. And then trust is maybe like wood. And then faith is coming more into like some kind of a metal. right? So there's what I mean by weight. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in like a grounded, rooted, like you are sitting in it. And so it's actually good to feel a weight in our body so that we're not just like floating and being wisped and whooshed and blown and thrown around, right? So there's a landing in and a landing down. And I think especially in the spiritual community, if you have a spiritual outlook, which is wonderful, but it's very easy to get lost up in the clouds. And the whole point of being here as a human is to have a human experience. And so we have to be in our body. We have to be in our body. And sometimes the soul will choose kind of pretty brutal things that our body needs to go through because it's like, yeah, be here, be in it. Like I've shared before, there's nothing like pain to bring you into the present moment and to bring you into your body, to bring you into presence and bring you into awareness. Of course, you can fight against it and resist it and try to escape it, but normally that doesn't make things better, but it really is a very kind of acute way of like, you're going to feel this here right now. And it brings you into your humanity and brings you into the body. So faith has a little bit more of a rooting and a landing and a settling into the earth of your being. And in that, there's, when I've come more into both trust and faith, I really let go of the fear. I let go of the worry and the anxiety. Can it creep up in small ways? Yes, but it's really so much more in check because I noticed that, if it kind of simmers and bubbles up a little bit, I'll notice it. I'll go, oh, okay, I feel it. I haven't felt anxiety in a really long time. Like it happened a couple of weeks ago and I thought that I was only going to have a month left to live in this place. Now it seems like I can maybe stay a bit longer, but it's every month, folks. My God, it's so boring. But I could feel it. I could feel a little bit the anxiety, but I made the conscious choice of I don't want to go into that state of anxiety. I don't want to go into that kind of fight or flight or being afraid and, oh my God, what's going to happen? It was really like, I have faith that it's going to be okay. One way or another. Am I enjoying this feeling? No, not really. Am I enjoying the unpredictability of my life in that way? No, not really. But I have faith that it's going to be okay. I don't want to waste any more time of my life not even trying, but just worrying. There's just no point. It doesn't help anything. And I think it's not about denying feeling because I felt it. And I allowed it. It's like, okay, let me tend to this. And I actively made a choice. And we do have that choice because we can really let the tail wag the dog, right? Some people go, oh, I have no control of my anxiety. Well, not yet. You might not. But we actually can have control of it. And I know that might seem like really far off if you're really in the throes of it, but actually over time, when you do this work, you do get a quote unquote control of it because we have to recognize that feelings and emotions can be very big and very intense. And so sometimes we don't feel like we have much control of it, but we also have to catch ourselves and be really honest with ourselves. Am I indulging this? Am I colluding with this? Am I going into the story? If I go into the story of the anxiety, then I'm perpetuating it and making it worse. And that actually is my responsibility to make the choice to not do that. So with the example of the home, I could have gone into like, oh my God, I'm going to be kicked out on the first. And what if I don't have a place? And, where I'm going to have to move back here and what, all of that. There was a moment where my mind went there and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Had I indulged the story, my anxiety would have gotten worse and my suffering would have gotten worse. But I made the conscious choice, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm letting it go. I don't want to play out that pattern anymore. It doesn't serve me, doesn't serve anyone, doesn't make a difference, doesn't make things better, it doesn't change things. It just makes your experience of the thing terrible. So we're looking for liberation here, right? From suffering and from unnecessary suffering. So then the next step on the path, on the trajectory that I've really been noticing in these last months is really landing into that place of knowing. Knowing. And that to me is going from, so if I take a step back, hope is something else is going to make life better. Trust is I'm trusting that something around me, above me, outside of me, a little bit myself, but still mainly outside of me, is there to support me. Faith is getting more into the I know that I'm being guided and supported and it's all going to be okay. Knowing is I am all that I have been praying to. I am all that I have been waiting for to come into my life to make my life better. I am the change that I'm seeking. I am the love that I'm looking for and yearning for. I am whatever it is that I externalized, waiting for that, praying to that, wishing for that, hoping for that, in communication with that. I am that too. So the knowing is the complete embodiment, the full landing and rooting into who I am as an expression of source, God, creation, consciousness, existence, love, energy. I am that. You are that. We are that. There is no separation. And that's how we come back into the unity consciousness. That's how we come back into interconnectivity, knowing that we are all one. We are all interconnected. We are all of the one as an expression of source itself. We are nature. So we get out of separation and separatism and division and hatred and the polarity that comes out of that and the duality that comes out of that. And I'm not meaning homogenization. I'm very clear on making that distinction. Unity consciousness isn't homogenization. It's not hive mind. Unity consciousness is filled with each soul, each drop of the ocean being its unique fingerprint of consciousness. But that it works in collaboration together because you know that you are all of the same source. You're a single drop, but you are all the ocean. So knowing that you matter, you belong, you're significant, you're needed, you are important, you are a part of, you are not separate. And that we're in this experience together. We're in existence together. We're all from the same source. So the knowing is the true exhale. I don't even need to, it's beautiful to pray to something outside of you, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are times where I call upon my guides and my angels and source, and, sometimes the name for that changes. But it's also recognizing that I am too powerful. I am also powerful. Not too powerful, you know what I'm saying. I, too, I am also powerful because I'm not separate from that. That knowing is home. That knowing is the place of peace and safety that we have been looking outside of ourselves for maybe our entire life. That knowing is the true hope. It's the true trust. It's the true faith. Because you just know that you are all things. And you absolutely have the power to create and to be a co-creator of your life. And that actually you are so powerful that what you feel and what you think absolutely 1,000,000% has an effect on the world and will change it for better or for worse. We get to choose, right? If we want to feed the fear and catastrophize everything and go further into division and hatred and blame, your reality is going to suck. I'm going to put that really bluntly and not very eloquently. It's going to suck. It's going to be full of fear and darkness and hatred and lack and scarcity and war. Or you can choose to focus on community and collaboration and love and compassion and forgiveness and gentleness and kindness and heart and being of service and generosity. And your reality will reflect that. It will look totally different. Now, it's not to say that we still don't have our human experience, and maybe in a day we go from feeling gratitude and like joy to something happens and we kind of feel like shit and we don't feel very grateful at all. And like, that's okay. Be with that feeling. Sometimes it really is easier said than done. And, kind of like the weather that moves through the sky, it changes. But this is part of the process too, is stop judging your humanity. Stop judging if you're not always in a spiritually high vibe place. Doesn't mean that you failed. Doesn't mean that you're lost. It's the ebb and flow. It's hard to hold a frequency that high all the time when we have been living in a very low density and a low frequency for a long time. It actually takes a lot of energy, or ironically, annoyingly, to shift and stay in that high vibration. And also, I don't know if we're meant to stay in any one state forever and always, right? That's part of the palette of human emotion and experience, is that it's varied. It's multi-textured. It's multicolored. That's okay. It has to be okay. It has to be okay because that's what is. And things aren't going to really truly change, and you're not truly going to be liberated until you let go of judgment. And if you're judging your state of being, you continue to put the bars around your own personal prison. So it's a process, like acceptance. This woman was saying that acceptance has a incredibly high frequency. And I thought, I love that, because that always has been the first step that I propose to people. Okay, everything starts with awareness, but the next step is, once I'm aware of what I'm working with, can I accept it? Because nothing is going to change until you first accept it. And accept it doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean, I accept it, and so therefore it's not going to change. That is the big, 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 big misconception. And that's why people go, I can't accept it. I can't accept it. No, it's not okay. Well, if you don't accept it, you can't change it. Like if you want to get rid of your fridge and you want to put a new fridge in, and I'm using this as an example because fridge is very heavy and it's a big object, right? If you're like, I want a new fridge and I want it to be in here right now. Well, you can't, because you have to move the old fridge. No, I don't accept that. I don't want to move the old fridge. I just want the new fridge to be in here in that spot right now. Well, nothing is going to change. You can't do that, because you have to accept the fact that you have an old fridge there, and you have to deal with that first, right? That might be a silly analogy, but really it's the point is we have to accept what is right here, right now. Then we come into the truth of the energy and the frequency that is here right now. Then guess what? You get to choose what you want to do with that. And that's where we have the power. We are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, that we even know. And so this is where our power comes in, through choice, through free will. Okay, what would you like to do with that choice? What would you like to do with the opportunity that you have to make a choice that will have an effect, right? So anything, whether it's external to you or internal to you, nothing will change unless you first accept what is and what is here. Then comes the allowing. Okay, can I allow it? This is here right now. I'm going to allow it. The allow it is part of the softening. Then when I'm working more internally, it's the embracing. Okay, this part is here for a reason. Maybe I don't like it. Maybe it hurts. Maybe it pains me. Maybe it's wounded and it's scarred. But I can only transmute it and alchemize it by embracing it with love. And by embracing it, I'm going, you're included too. I'm not going to get rid of you. I'm not going to push you away. I'm not going to judge you. I'm embracing you, which means I'm bringing you in and I'm including you. I'm giving you the permission to exist and be here and be seen and be witnessed and be heard and be understood. And then there's love just there, being like, yes, thank you for coming back into the lap of love. And then love is the alchemist. Then you don't need to go out there and fix yourself to improve yourself to get better. You don't have to go out there to fix the world, to improve the world, to make it better. Like, yes, those are all wonderful things that we can try to do on the outside, but actually the biggest, most profound change is our state of being. And if we accept, allow, embrace our inner state of being, and we naturally come into the lap of love, then things transmute and become that which is birthed from love, not from fear. And that is the biggest thing that is occurring in this shift right now, is the shift from a state of fear into a state of love. And that's the returning home, because we are love. And if you do that inside of you, you will change the world. I guarantee it. It's already happening. Still a lot of people in fear, and they may stay in fear, and that might be their reality. And it's literally going to be like two realities happening simultaneously, side by side. You know, we're going to understand the multidimensionality of existence. We're going to understand parallel lives, and they can literally happen in the same geographic place. Two people have completely different reality and experience of life, depending on how they're perceiving it. It's the same thing with our beliefs. Our beliefs paint the color, the lens through which we see, right? So coming into knowing is remembering who you are. Truly, the essence, the soul, the being that you are source, you are God, you are the universe, you are nature. You are that. It's the true I am that I've spoken to in the past. And it really brings us into present moment. Because when we come into that I know, it comes into the I am, which comes into here and now. And then I can dip my toe into like the predictions of the future, the energy forecast of this month. But actually, it really brings us back into, but all there is now. And I know profoundly, I'm in the knowing, which is not knowledge. As I shared last week, it's not knowledge. It's knowing is a state of being. Knowing is that gnosis. Knowing is a feeling. It's not a thought. It's not a collection of thoughts and theories and facts. It's a feeling, it's an energy, it's a state of being, and it's an embodiment. Two very, very different things. Knowing brings us back into that center point where we can root. The roots of the tree can go deep into the earth. The trunk can grow, the branches can extend, and that is the beautiful connection of earth and the divine, earth and sky, earth and spirit, human and soul. We are the amazing middle point, right? The conductor, the vessel, the conduit, the vehicle in between. And also all part of it at the same time, right? There's no separation. As above, so below, as within, so without, right? So that's the trajectory. I hope I've explained it in a way that makes sense and is understandable. So the invitation is to observe that pathway for yourself. And maybe other things will come in. Just because I say that that's the pathway doesn't mean it's the one pathway. It's just what I've observed and experienced myself. And, this coming into our power, notice outside of you what we just know. We can notice what is disempowering and what is empowering. Empowering is having absolute faith, trust, and belief in yourself and comfort in yourself, no matter what. Even when you don't believe, even when you don't trust and have faith, even when you feel scared and you're worried, if you can stand by yourself and in that and relax into it and soften into it and stay and know that you're okay, that's gold, right? It's not about, again, there's no conditionality. Oh, I only know when I'm centered and grounded and positive and optimistic. I'm only authentic when I'm truly expressing all of myself in the most positive way. No, just strip it back, make it very simple. Are you present with yourself? Are you in a state of awareness? Are you accepting all of who you are? Are you embracing everything within you? Are you loving yourself? Are you loving it all? It's a coming in, landing in and down and coming home. I so miss doing movement work with people because it's such a beautiful way to bring all of this and actually physically feel it in your body. Because there's one thing that you can listen to this and you are getting like a kind of transmission and you can breathe it in, you can close your eyes, you can visualize it, you can feel into your body. And I hope it invites you to do that. But moving, bringing it into the movement of the body is so important. And I was actually listening to this video today, and this person was saying, it's kind of like a channel thing, but this woman was saying, well, what do you do on the days where you don't feel like you have any kind of hope or faith, or, that it's all going to be okay. And maybe it's a question of timing, and we have to let go of timing. That's another thing. It's just be here now, let go of the timing. Timing can create so much disappointment. People are like, well, this didn't happen yet, or, the man or woman hasn't come in yet, or my dream job hasn't come yet, or the home, or it was meant to come in, but it hasn't, or the world, it's the timing can be so disappointing. And so we really have to let go of timing, and have trust and have faith and come into the knowing that it's all happening perfectly, beautifully orchestrated, right? But she was saying, and sometimes you wake up and it's like, yeah, easier said than done. Maybe some days I wake up and I feel hopeless, and, I feel kind of like, screw all of this. What the hell is this? Why am I here? What is going on? And the response to that was move through that. And I love that response, because as very much how I see it and feel it and experience it myself. Because emotions are energy and movement. So move through it. And that can be both figurative and literal. So it's like if you might move through your emotions by feeling them, by breathing into them, or you might physically move your body, whether it's through movement or through dance or through voice and singing or painting or drawing or taking a walk in nature. But when we suffer most is when we become stagnant. So movement is just give energy. Like, think of it as water that sits stagnant and still gets really disgusting, right? It fills itself up with algae and bacteria and gets all foamy and disgusting. But water that has movement is beautiful and is constantly regenerating, and everything has movement. And I don't mean that as like how we believe doing, like be busy, do something all the time. That's not what I mean. I mean the natural state of flow and movement, the natural current of life, of nature, the natural current of the breath, right? So the invitation is just to bring these things into your awareness and to recognize there's no competition, there's no deadline, there's no timing, this is not a race, but to notice, and you might even jump between, right? It's not necessarily a linear trajectory. It could be a spirally, squiggly, labyrinth of a map. I don't know what it is for you. But notice, when are you in hope? When are you in trust? When are you in faith? When are you in knowing? And get to know the feelings and the embodiments of that. So how I described it might be different for you, but how I described it is hope feels a little bit airy. It feels a little bit more outside. Whereas trust, faith, knowing is like becoming the mountain. It's immovable, right? That is solid. I don't mean rigid. But I mean just like the knowing, the mountain is the mountain. It might still shift because of, weather and earthquakes and whatever. And it shifts with that. And then it moves into a different shape. It's okay. It doesn't have a judgment around that, right? It doesn't have attachment to that identity. But in its state, the mountain is the mountain, right? Like there's no arguing that. And so there's a solidity that comes in. So get to feel the sensation, the texture, the energy of what does hope feel like? What does trust feel like? What does faith feel like? And what does knowing feel like? No better or worse, no right or wrong, no good or bad. I want you to just recognize how do they feel different? So that then you have the key to understand, oh, I'm in this embodiment right now. Oh, I'm in that embodiment right now. And then you get to choose and you get to work with it. So all of this work, I don't want to call it self-improvement because it's like we're not a project that needs fixing. What we're doing is we're understanding who we are. We're understanding the language of our emotions, of our energies, of our feelings, of our sensations, of our desires, of our fears, of both our humanity and our divinity, of our human self and our soul self. We're getting to know all of these things. We're exploring and discovering. And it's interesting. Why do people like traveling? Because they get to see and learn and discover new things. So travel inside of yourself. See, explore, and discover new things within yourself. Gain a better understanding and knowing, wisdom. Get inspired. Yes, you'll be challenged too. That's okay. That's part of the journey. Again, get out of the judgment of what it should look like. what it should feel like, and let it just be. Accept, allow, embrace, love. Then the alchemy happens naturally. Okay, this is a super long one, so I'm going to leave it at that. And as always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.